Hey everyone, and welcome to Journey of Footsteps. Thank you for joining me here again. In today's video I would like to tell you about why I decided to stop sitting on chairs. In last week's video, I spoke to you all about my decision to turn to a plant-based diet. That was one big lifestyle change that I made a couple of months ago. The second was that I decided to ground live. That basically means to give up sitting on chairs. The reason for me deciding to sit on the floor came from me watching a video by a guy called Riddle, who is a movement specialist. He is very famous at the moment, especially for barefoot running. He's just done the 3 Peaks challenge in the UK barefoot. He's also generally quite an interesting guy to listen to. He's very much into returning our body movement back to its original state. And it was through watching him on a podcast, which I will leave a link to in the description below, where he tells the story of how he decided to sit and to live on the ground. The explanation to this is very simply going back in time to how we would have lived before we invented the chair. And he talks about how, because of sitting on chairs, how our body has changed and become tighter. So in, for example, the knees and the ankles and the hips. And by sitting on the ground, we try to return back to the state when we were a lot more flexible in these areas. And all of this is to basically help with our posture. And if our posture is good, it means our insides are better and in their right state. And that means we're going to be healthier. What I mean by that is obviously if we're crunched over, our ribs, etc. are going to be crushing in on our internal organs. For example, if we're sitting badly in a chair. And that really is not good for you or your organs. You know, if you imagine someone trying to get you to do a job like painting a wall in a really small box, and you know you're not going to be able to do it. Yeah, and that's basically what we're doing to our internal organs. We're crunching down and cramping them into a space that they can't perform properly, and all of this is eventually going to affect our health. Now I know what you're saying, you know, it's not really possible in this day of life, and to a certain extent that's true. Definitely now I've gone back to work and back to uni after being furloughed and obviously the lockdown. It is now more difficult. When I'm at work, I work at a reception desk, so I'm sitting most of the time. The way I try and get around that is by standing as much as I can. Also, what I'll do in a minute is show you the squat position, which Riddle also talks a lot about. This is a very natural way to sit on your feet. From my experience in Asia, you see it an awful lot. A lot of people will sit like this, and for them it's very natural. They also tend to be incredibly flexible compared to Westerners. So when I'm at work, this is what I try to do. I try to stand up as much as possible, and I try not to fall back into the habit of slouching on the chair. If I do sit on the chair, I try and keep a good posture, especially when I'm with a client. I will be honest and say when I'm talking to friends and colleagues, I tend to relax into the chair. So again, it's a learning curve and you have to keep trying to progress and get better. At university, it's a little bit more difficult because there's a lot of restrictions in place due to COVID and we have to social distance. Obviously, in different areas, you have to compromise. And for me, the way I do that is when I'm sitting on the chair at university, especially during a lecture or when my tutor's talking to us, I try and sit with a good posture, try and keep myself upright. I don't put my back on the chair because I know that when I start working, I tend to hunch over because it's just a habit. I get really close to the material that I'm working with. So when I'm listening to a lecture or listening to my tutor talk, I try and sit with as best posture as possible. So the other thing is, just like now you can see in the video, my sofa is behind me, and in the evening when I'm tired and maybe I'm watching a movie with my parents, I will tend to kind of start off sitting correctly, and then eventually one hand will go up, then my body will rest, and then eventually my legs go out and I just start watching the TV. So obviously this is not good. I'm now just slouching. I'm sitting on the floor. I'm technically floor living, but I'm now slouching. So this is no good for my posture. So again, you have to be kind of disciplined with yourself and to sit in various ways to make sure that you keep this posture. And the posture is that your shoulders are up and down, your chest is up, and you lead with your, Tony Riddle says, lead with your heart. So you lead with your heart, you open your chest, and you keep everything stacked. So head above the shoulders, shoulders above the hips, hips above the feet. So have a look at just a few clips now. This is me sitting at home. So finally, I want to finish by just showing you the squat. So this is a position that Tony Riddle really talks a lot about and explains how powerful this is for your body. I will leave a link to not only his website, but also the YouTube interview that I spoke to you about. That's a Rich Roll podcast. Again, if you're interested in health, your body, or kind of improving yourself, improving the way you live, etc., etc., definitely check out Rich Roll's podcast on YouTube. Epic channel, epic guy. Let's have a look at the squat. So I'm going to pan the camera down. Excuse the kind of view of my groin, but this is the squat. So both feet are flat on the ground. Okay, my heels are underneath my hips. And I don't want to end up in this position where my body's crouched over, because again, now I'm crunching everything in down here. So what I want to do is practice and get used to sitting and opening up. So now my chest is open. Again, like Tony says, lead with the heart. And for me, this is actually quite comfortable. To begin with, you have to kind of figure out where your balance is. Sometimes you kind of fall over backwards. But once you get the hang of it, I like to just sit like this, and you can sit and watch the TV. And the good thing about ground living as well is it tells you when to move. So you'll get into this position and suddenly, this starts to ache, or, it becomes uncomfortable. So then you can drop one knee down and you change your seated position, again, trying to keep your posture. But what that does is it stops us from sitting. I've just realized I'm talking to you, but not at the camera. What that does is it stops you from sitting in one place for too long. And that, again, is not good for you. If you sit in, I'm sure we've all done it, where we sat on the sofa for an hour or so watching a movie, and then you're like, oh, as you try to get up because you're so stiff. Now, I'm not obviously asking you all to go out and sell your sofas and get rid of all your furniture, but why not give it a go? If you particularly find that your knees and ankles or hips or lower back are getting stiff, obviously take it easy, do a little bit at a time. Maybe even just watch a movie while sitting on the floor, or maybe eat your breakfast while kneeling on the floor. Just remember that you can use a cushion to sit on. I use my blanket to kind of fold it up to sit on, and then I roll it out if I'm on my knees. The most important thing is, remember, try and keep your posture. So that's it for this video. Short and sweet, but just wanted to show you my second big life change, or big lifestyle change. I will leave in the comment section below a link to Rich Roll's podcast, and also Tony Riddle's website, and the interview that he does on Rich Roll's podcast. So definitely check them out if you're interested. They are very good to listen to. Lots of really cool information in there. Thanks again for tuning in, everyone, and thank you again for all your support. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you've liked what you've seen today, and the like button, and hit the bell button. That will let you know when our next video has been uploaded. Thank you so much. Enjoy your day and happy ground living.